tutorial, I'm going to teach you all how to draft a bustier pattern and how to sew it perfectly. So for this tutorial, you need your brown paper, you need your pin, your ruler, scissors, your ST, and your fabric. I already folded the pattern paper into two. So I'm just going to measure my nipple to nipple, which is 8 inches divided by 2. That's 4 inches plus half inch allowance. That's 4.5. So I'm just going to fold. Now you can just use 4. There's no need for you to add an half inch. So I'm just going to fold it like this. And make sure it's 4 inches. To rule, after folding it like this, I'm just going to rule a starting point. So we could start inputting the measurements. This one will be my shoulder point. It's an off shoulder top, so I'm just going to take 5 inch. You can use 6 or 7, but I prefer to use 5 or 5/2. From this 5/2, measure your bust point. My bust point is 10. My under bust is 13/2. My waist is 17, and my top length will be 20. It's going to be a crop top, so I'm just going to run a straight line. So I'm just going to label it. This is my shoulder line, my bust line, under bust, my waistline, and the top length. So after I've marked the straight lines together, I'm just going to come down here on my shoulder line and mark 1 inch here. I'll come down to my under bust line and mark 1.5 inch. So I'm just going to draw a curve line like this using my curve ruler. This is how it should look after you've done it. After you trace the curve line, then I'll just take my ruler and draw a straight line. Mark 1 inch, 1.5 inch to the end, and mark a straight line. So this is the bustier pattern. So remember I took 5.5 inches for the off shoulder. So I just want to mark the neckline, straight out neckline, and I want to use 7 inches. So I'm just going to mark 7.7 inches so my boobs will not show. I'm going to mark 7 inches and just connect it to this line. So the next thing I'll do is to input all my measurements, starting from here. From this point, I'll mark 7.5 for my shoulder measurement. From here, I'll measure my bust measurement, which is 9.75. For my under bust, you can see how I'm doing it. Start from all these points. Then I'll mark 8.5, starting from here to this place. For my under bust measurement, and I'll use 8.75 for my waist, and mark my top length. Use 9. Just going to connect all the lines together. Now it's going to be input your bust the bust measurement, because it can also serve as the chest line. So I'll just rule a straight line instead. Still the same thing, so it won't give that weird shape. So I'm just going to cut it. You don't need to add any allowance because you've already folded this already. So this is going to take a lot of allowance. So there's no need for you to add any extra allowance. So that's how to cut the front pattern of a bustier. I'm just going to take out this middle panel and trim this part for the neckline. So you have your bustier pattern. This is how your bustier pattern should look like. So guys, this is the back pattern for the bustier. For the bustier top, and my bustier top is going to have a zip. So I'm just going to mark. This is the starting point of the bustier top. So I'm going to mark 1.5 inches for the zip allowance. So guys, remember we removed 5.5 inches for the front pattern. So I'm just going to do the same for the back and mark out my bust points and my, I don't need my under bust measurement. I'll just mark my waistline and my length, which is 20 inches, and draw a straight line across them. Zip allowance. This is your chest line, my bust, my waist, my top length. My nipple to nipple is 8 inches divided by 2, that's 4 inches. So I'm just going to mark 4 inches like this way. To mark the dots, and then I'll roll a straight line. So at the waistline, I'm going to take 1 inch or 0.75 inches. Come down here by 1 inch or 1.5 inches. 1.5 inches is fine. Then connect the lines together. So I'll come down to the top length and mark 1 inch here and connect them together. Just the same way you mark a normal dart. So I'm just going to input all my measurements and cut it. So I've already marked my measurements and I've traced the lines together. So I added 1.5 inches allowance for you. So the next thing I'm going to do is just trim it out. And I'll show you how it looks like after trimming it out. So after I've cut out the pattern for the back, you should have 4 pieces. 4 pieces. So this will be at the left panel of the bustier. And this will be at the right panel of the bustier at the back. This is the zip allowance. I already slanted into 2. So this is how it should look like with the front pattern. And this is how your front pattern should look like. I've already cut out the the pattern we used for the bustier, and I make sure it's in 4-piece, 2-piece for the front pattern, and this remaining 2 is for the lining. It's only the middle panel where we have the sweetheart snake pattern they are going to cut on fold, and I already ironed my ST on it. My ST wasn't enough, so I just applied it on the front pattern, so the lining will be without the ST. You can also use breast pad or whatever you want to use, but I prefer ST, and the rest has 4 pieces. It's only the middle panel that you cut on fold. So the next thing I'm going to do is to take the front panel and pin it, take it to my sewing machine and sew it. So it should look like this. So if you notice, I'm trying to retain this pattern of the Ankara for the down part of my top. So I'm just going to place it like this and pin it. So after pinning it, I'm just going to take half an inch and sew it to the end of the bustier, end of the top, and do the same thing for the right side. I've already sewn each side, sewn the front and the back, and this is how it looks like. This is how the bust should be. You take half an inch at all sides, and you repeat the same thing for the lining. This is the lining. So the next thing I will do is to face right sides together like this from the middle panel. You pin it till the end, take half an inch or quarter inches and sew it. Just going to sew it in after you top stitch it. So guys, I already stitched the lining and the front part together, and I have top stitched it. So the next thing I will do is to flip it over to the wrong side. This is where the zip allowance will be, but I'm going to sew it. I will sew it at the left and the right hand side of the cloth, and afterwards I would flip it over back to the right side. As you can see, mine is not equal, so if yours is not equal, make sure you trim it so it's equal, and I'll just hem it. After hemming it, I'll fix the zip.